Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Freestyle Chess Championship. It is the second day of the quarterfinals, and today, the people who lost yesterday must win to force a tiebreak, or they get knocked out. Our matchups: Nodirbek Abdusattorov leads 1-0 over Dingli Ren. Alireza Firouzja leads 1-0 over Magnus Carlsen. Fabiano Caruana leads 1-0 over Gukesh Domaraju of India. And in the other matchup, Vincent Keymer versus Levon Aronian, that was tied with a draw yesterday. So if they have a winner today in the classical portion, it will go to a play. That match is over. If they make a draw, then of course they have to play a tiebreak. Now, it's classical chess. And another very unique thing, they don't play the same position twice, which is actually, I probably should have realized that. But yesterday they played a game and they don't play the same colors again. Today they show up and draw completely new colors, rather a completely new position. So Magnus now needs to beat Alireza Firouzja in a classical chess 960 game, Fischer random game, with a brand new position, and that is the only way that he is going to force a rapid playoff. He opens with e4, Alireza plays e5. King is in the center, rooks are here. If you're new to this event, they're playing Fischer random. Back row of pieces is shuffled. A lot of you like to make the joke that the front row of pieces is shuffled as well. That is absolutely hilarious. You all have careers as stand-up comedians or chess YouTubers. G3, C6, C3, G6. Clearly, both guys like what they're doing here. They are trying to nerf the corner bishop, and they are trying to activate potentially the bishop over here. Now both guys bring their knights. Alireza just memeing around, copying Magnus. All pieces on the e-file congesting the board, which is quite humorous. And now Magnus plays rook f1. The idea of rook f1 is very straightforward. He now cannot castle this way, but he's trying to play this move f4, opening the center, while negating the development of the bishop in the corner. Rook f8, and Alireza is just copying him the whole way through. It's really funny, actually. He copies the whole position. He copies here, then that's alternate, but then he copies. Just copying him the whole way through. And believe it or not, it's the best way to play the position. Believe it or not, the engine is actually saying that this is the best way to play all of this. Now Magnus takes on e5, and Alireza continues to mirror him. He's just trying to trade the center pawns and trade the rooks, and they're both going to castle this way. Okay, they're both going to castle using that rook, because that's the way you castle in chess 960. You castle one way with the rook on the one side, and you castle the other way with the rook on the other side. Now, take. The position still looks extremely similar, which I find hilarious. Now, Magnus right here made his move and actually went to the confession booth and apologized. He apologized for breaking the aesthetic nature of the position, which is all the rooks on the on the same file. Not all the rooks, all the pieces on the same file, which I thought was very funny. Now, so this very peculiar opening of the position happens, and Magnus knows he can't trade the queen. If he trades the queens, even if he has a little bit more space, the position is very drawish. Black gets a completely symmetrical position, and likely the game just ends in a draw. I doubt there's anything here. So instead, he plays queen b4, and he asks Alireza, who's going to protect the pawn on b7? All right. Number one, you can move the pawn forward. Number two, you can move the pawn forward 2 squares. Number three, apparently, you can sack the pawn. You can sack the pawn to get b-file counterplay and take on b2. And if they try to fork you, you actually just take with the bishop in the corner. So Alireza has a lot of options. He can also castle, but that's too dangerous. Castling is too dangerous. You get hit with this, you go back, and now white can start attacking. Oh, well, actually, I guess the knight is hanging, so you can't do that. But let's say you go back this way. I can't take your knight, but I will go here, and then I will just continue to attack. Why do I keep hanging pieces? What is wrong with me? Playing like you guys, and this is how you attack, all right? Just such a weird setup of pieces that things are just not defended under certain angles. Anyway, Alireza goes here. So he plays a little bit of a more safe move, giving Magnus more space. And now he realizes he's in trouble. And he spends a long time, plays queen a5, but if he goes queen c7, Magnus will just keep going forward. And clearly Alireza doesn't like this. He doesn't like what's about to happen. He doesn't like the opening of the positions. A lot of tactics here with pawn takes and rook here and knight takes and the bishop opening. It's a very dire position already. And clearly, you know, Alireza spending 10 minutes on this decision. He should have been a little bit more active. Now he trades the queens, and it doesn't matter how the game started. If Magnus gets to this phase of the game where he is more confident, which is the endgame, and it doesn't matter how imbalanced the position is, plays d5. d5 is a pawn sacrifice, by the way. Just a clean sacrifice. But here's the thing. If black takes, now you castle. And I'm getting that pawn back. And you have doubled isolated pawns on 2 sets. And it's really bad. This is Magnus's bread and butter. He takes on d5, brings the bishop, right? Alireza develops, and here comes Magnus just safeguarding his position. Here he comes forward. This is Magnus playing an endgame where he's got a slight advantage. He has a 2 and he has a 3. Alireza's got doubled isolated A pawns, an isolated D pawn, and a slightly more passive king. Now the engine does find ways to stabilize and hold, but Magnus keeps poking. Alireza's trying to defend himself. Yeah, Magnus's knight dances around and he's just attacking stuff, and he gets in, and it's bad. It's really unpleasant. Magnus takes the bishop on the way out the door, so now he has the bishop pair as well. Now a well-timed b4. Doesn't even matter that he's helping Alireza get rid of his weakness, because his position just improves itself. He's going to go king b2. He's going to go after this pawn. Alireza has too many weaknesses. And on top of that, Alireza's got no time. Look at this move, by the way. Knight c7. Giving up the knight to get a knight back. The weaknesses are still nice and solid. Rook d7 is on the way. And Magnus, smooth sailing. Up a pawn in a bishop endgame with some rooks, doubled past pawns. This is looking like a typical Magnus game, but it's not looking like they played Fischer random. King g5, rook a8, and he's just going to push. It doesn't matter how far Alireza's pawn can get, rook a8, and here Alireza resigns, because even though he can get the pawn here, it's stopped, and the rook is trapped, by the way. There is rook b8. Can't take, but then I just go here, and that's the end of the game. King c3, king d2. Nothing black can do. The pawn's going to go straight to b7. And it's a fortress for white. There's no moves for black. Black can't move anything. Magnus wins on demand. Magnus wins exactly as he is supposed to in regular chess. He gets the game to an endgame, extinguishes the bright fire of Alireza, wins on demand, the GOAT is back, and they will play a playoff. Before they play a playoff, I will take you around the world, starting with the potential comeback of Ding Liren. By the way, why is that cut off? Is that just on my screen? Do you see that? The G is cut off in Ding's name. That's not just me, right? I mean, I'm smudging my screen. It doesn't look like just me. Why is that happening? What? Chess.com, hello? You cutting off of the G over here? You guys got to fix that. Anyway, Ding has to win with white. So we're going to compare openings. We have e4, e5, just like in that game, right? We had e4, e5, this type of opening with the pawns. So what is Ding gonna play? Wow, same opening, but queen c2. Okay, queen c2 is not what happened in that game. In that game, they put their knights and then they copied each other. In this game, imbalance is actually created first by Neuderbek. Ding castles queenside right away and then starts firing pawns forward. But look at Neuderbek. In chess 960, you can make the mistake of committing your king too quickly, and now you're under attack. b3. d5, and Neuderbek also castles queenside. But by move 11, he's already much better. And this is really sort of the odd storyline of this tournament. This is Ding's 9th game. He has 1 point. No, he has half. Ding has made 1 draw and lost 7 games in this event. He's half out of 8. And now he's worse after 10 moves with white, and it's just mind-blowing. I mean, it's crazy. So Neuderbek gives away a pawn. He gives away a pawn on f5 with a check, but it would be bad to take it because he would go here, force the queen back, go here, and win. Because look at these pieces. They are all stranded on the back rank. So bishop f5, pawn takes, and instead c takes d4, which is clearly what Ding is going for, and he wants to open the position. But this is a very, look at this. This is this tremendous pressure building on the white position. Ding plays d3, which makes sense. He's trying to stop d3. He's trying to play knight d2, knight c4. Neuderbek develops his knight. He's a pawn down, but he's a mess. No, he's not a pawn down. He was almost a pawn down. He was trying to sacrifice a pawn. So he's not even a pawn down. He has all the benefits of his position. Knight d2, reroutes the knight, and he's just heading for these squares. He's just heading for these squares. The knight is going to go there or there, and then it's going to land somewhere here. I mean, this is just misery for white. I mean, he just can't get out. Knight c4, queen a6. And in this position, Nojibek plays a very forcing move. He calculates, he plays c5, spends 6 minutes, plays c5. The idea is very easy. White has to take. If white doesn't take, if white plays king b1, black will play b6. White has no moves. White cannot get out of this position. So what's going to happen is black will go here, black will go here and win. And I mean, if, let's just say you don't hang the queen, black will just put the knight here, and you just can't move anything. So he plays c5. And the reason he plays c5 is because Nojibek only needs a draw. And he calculates out a sequence here where all the pieces fly off the board. Queen c5, he captures. He takes on a2. Yes, he lost all his pawns. But now he gets this one back. White's king is too exposed. There's just nothing you can do. Take, take. And if like, you know, Ding can't play for a win. Ding's king is not in a position to be playing for a win. He has no roof. Dude's living in a house, got no roof on it. All right? Some people in the world are too, but this king is just a bozo. All right? He just didn't fix the roof. Yeah, so instead of that, Ding plays queen c4, and we just go to an endgame, and two rooks, knight and bishop. Yeah, Nojibek calculated this out, and it's just an endgame, but you're not going to win. We just trade the pieces, and now we trade the rooks. That's it. That's the end. And we play a little bit longer. Ding, you know, Ding obviously doesn't just give up. They play the moves out, and this is just a draw. It's a draw, but that means that Ding is eliminated, and Nojibek Abdusattorov is the first semifinalist. Nojibek has not lost the game. He was 5.5 out of 7. He was 6.5 out of 8. He is now 7 out of 9. And undefeated. And he's clearly playing the best chess. He's the first semifinalist. Next. Yesterday, Fabiano defeated Gukesh. All right? We're going to look at, just like we've been comparing the openings of every game. We had queen c2 in this one. In this game, we had knight e3. What's going to happen in this game between Gukesh and Fabiano? Gukesh has to beat Fabiano. Yesterday, Fabiano beat Gukesh. f4. Wow. And now the guys move a bunch of pawns. So we have a totally different opening, which is why this is so interesting, right? We got two games that went, you know, like this, and then we got two games that went like that, and then we got this, whatever the heck this is. So Gukesh plays bishop d4. Very interesting move. He's trying to trade the dark squared bishop and play on the weaknesses of the opponent, play on the dark squared weaknesses of the opponent. Fabi opens the center, and there's a trade, right? He gets active. Now the knights come in. We got to bring the knights in. We got to bring the knights in. And now we got a castle. So now both guys castle this way. That's the result of the opening. 13 moves played. An obscure structure. Gukesh went for a bishop trade. He's got the strong bishop in the corner. Fabi has a pawn structure that does not exactly complement the light squared bishop, but he's rock solid. And remember, Fabiano's approach, just like Nojibek's, is I have to not lose. I have to not lose. I mean, I just have to not lose the game. That's it. It's the only requirement. So Gukesh plays knight f4. Fabi brings his rook. Good luck beating Fabiano here. Again, both sides have a lot of pawns. Maybe with white, you try to open things up, but black is very, very solid, and forward mobility is very difficult, but Gukesh has to win. He has to win. It's like being down 4 rounds in a 5-round fight. You lost the first 4 rounds, so in this round, you either don't do anything and lose, or you got to try to knock the other person out. Gukesh didn't actually try to physically assault Fabiano, I would imagine. But, you know, you gotta do your best. Rook b1, and now Fabi's like, I'm not even gonna sit and wait. I'm just play c5. I'm just gonna play the best moves. I'm not gonna sit and wait. I'm gonna play the best moves. I'm gonna force you backwards and just make very slow and steady improvements to my position. And the advantage is just growing. I mean, Fabiano has everything covered, everything protected. Gukesh has a small opportunity to infiltrate. He's like poking and prodding, and he plays d4, but as the position grows, Gukesh's time disadvantage is now up to 25 minutes, and he's just much worse. And this game ends on the 22nd move. Gukesh plays here and offers a draw. And Fabiano accepts. Gukesh plays here, offers a draw. Remember, this is not rated, so this knocks Gukesh out. Fabiano's in the semifinals as well. That was crazy. Gukesh got nowhere. And that might have been from the opening. He might have just chosen a bad type of structure. He might have just not played the opening in the optimal way. But Fabiano was lights out in this game. He did not give Gukesh a single chance. He played a beautiful setup, completely understood the structure, And he got this, and Gukesh had nothing. I mean, Fabiano was a brick wall. Fabiano's in the semifinals as well. And now Vincent Keymer, Levon Aronian. It turned out that before the game, Levon analyzed the wrong position. So the position was selected, Levon was analyzing the wrong position. And he had said, he brought this up, and so they talked to him, and he said, that's all right. I've lived long enough, and you know, I'm happy to laugh at myself being an idiot. Which is good. We should all be able to laugh at ourselves first and foremost, and others, provided, you know, you shouldn't make fun of people actively, but as a society, we should laugh at ourselves, laugh at each other, and you never punch down. It's the number one rule. You never punch down. But punching up, have at it. Talking like taller people. Anyway, this one is a Dutch defense. So this one takes a totally unique thing. Vincent opens up his bishops right away. These guys don't touch their e-pawns at all. G3, and now E5. So Vincent decides, I want to open up my bishop and my rook, okay? But by playing like this, he gives Levon something really sacred to every chess player. Time. And to every human. Time. F4. That was a weird decision by Vincent to play E5. Like, to open up but be given time. And now Levon plays an active queen move. And this is a totally unique position than what we've seen already. A5, A4. And now Vincent already senses desperation. He's not happy with how the opening turned out. His knights are active, but he's got no pawn play. So his knights have no forward mobility. And if you give... Oh, well, I can't actually do that. It's actually hard to make a move for black. Like bishop f6, white's going e4. I mean, white's going to castle long. White's going to castle long and then play e4 and win the game. So he plays g5. And this is like trying to get in a fight with your shoes tied. And it does not work out. Levon, knight c5. He's getting the bishops in. He's getting this bishop is a beast. And this game ends in less than 10 moves. Bishop h6. King off the center line. He continues to capture. And my man Levon slides over the queen. Targets the bishop. Targets the check, which is a fork. Targets the knight. Opens up the rook for when his piece moves. And Vincent takes on d2 and on c5. But the attack never stops. And the final piece of the puzzle is e4. e4 will remove the defense of the black position entirely. It will open up the rook. He can't castle. Vincent can't castle. He can't castle in either direction. Take, knight e4. And you just sacrifice the rook. You sacrifice the rook because it cannot be taken. Because before I take, I will check you. And your king is stranded in the center of the board. King e8, queen g8 is mate. King here, this is mate. Rook ae6 instead, queen g7, d6. What a knockout. Rook takes d6! The simple idea being, if this, then this. And if the king goes here, rook c4, you're mated. And if you take with the rook e8, king e8, and you're going to lose your queen, which you never even managed to move. Levon Aronian shows up. Gets the job done, and he is going to play Fabiano Caruana in the semifinals. And these two still got a match to play. They played classical in this portion to break the tie. They play rapid. This is game number 1. Will the GOAT return completely to form and take down Ali Reza? Or will Ali Reza take down Magnus Carlsen? It's chess 960, so you really never know. That's the beautiful thing about it. All right? C4. Notice, totally unique position. King in the center, knights over here. Will you bring these knights out like this? How are you going to open up your bishops? Which way are you going to castle? Let's see. C4, knight f6. Ali Reza takes queenside space. Magnus gives up a pawn, but... Whoa! So white's not going to castle that way, right? He's not going to go that way. Knight f3, but why is Magnus wasting all this time? Look at him giving Ali Reza so much central space. This is crazy. And it's rapid, right? It's fast time control. bc5. Magnus's pieces are getting shoved to the back? Or are they? What a provocative position. h7 is hanging, by the way. You want to take it? Or you got to deal with the center first? Ali Reza castles. Wow. Black cannot castle because knight g5 threatens not just mate, but also the knight. So that would be very bad, and you would get into a bad position. So instead of that, Magnus takes on d4, queen d4, plays f5, anchoring his knight. Wild complications already. Alireza is a pawn down. Alireza loves giving up a little material for a little activity. Take knight f6. Hold up. Whoa. Look at this. This is just a pure X-ray. Skewer. Not X-ray. Skewer. And Magnus cannot play this because that does not stop c5. Doesn't stop c5. You take, I take the queen, you take my queen, I take your rook. You take with the queen, I take your queen, you take my queen, I take your rook. So Magnus, after the move, bishop f4, loses his rook. Oh my god. He's down in exchange. Alireza is cooking. Castles, rook b1, and knight g3. And Magnus plays e6. And basically, here is the situation. Alireza has a rook, Magnus has a bishop and a pawn. So it's a 1-point differential between the two of them, but the evaluation is 0.49. That's because the engine actually thinks Black has some pretty powerful freaking pieces. The power of the rook here is not felt. But you know where it will be felt? The endgame. If White is able to correctly simplify the position, very simple example, but kind of dumb. If White trades the queens, right? And then a couple of moves later, Black offers a trade of knights. And then a couple of, well, here there's just purely rook b8. But then, you know, we get something like this. Like, White is much better here. Like, White is going to try to put pressure on d7 and try to open up the file. But Black can defend. Black can defend for a long time. So knight g3, e6. Alireza thinks plays knight e4. He's got 5 minutes to beat Magnus Carlsen in the phase of the game where this man has made his bread and butter. He trades one pair of knights. Magnus plays bishop e7. Now, believe it or not, the best move here is c5. It's one of the options. If there's a queen trade, you don't trade, and instead you target h7. It's actually kind of hard to defend yourself. You play g6. I play rook c1. So c5 is a very interesting idea. If bishop c5, I have rook c1 anyway with queen d3. But why are we sacrificing a pawn? It's the endgame. Instead, we're going to put our knight on d4. Magnus stops knight to b5. Alireza brings the knight back to try to support the move c5. And now he takes some space with f4. Magnus gets his king off the light squares. General improving move. Preparing for the endgame. Alireza has a minute on the clock. He plays king h1. Magnus plays knight d6. Now suddenly the momentum is back to equal. The position is back to equal. The momentum is on the side of Magnus. c5. Take, take. Magnus is completely in control. Weakness. Weakness. Bishop is going to anchor everybody. But Alireza steps up to the challenge and gets on the f-file. Major decision to be made for Magnus. Extremely weak square on f7. If you go to a rookless endgame, only White can win. So, rook f1. He takes on c5. Rook c1. It's looking like we're going to go to an endgame with like no pieces on the board. Rook d8. He takes. Rook d7. Alireza's got a rook up, but Magnus has 2 pawns now. I will remind you, in an endgame a while ago, White only had 4 pawns and Black had 5. Now White only has 2 pawns and Black has 4. But you got a really powerful rook. Magnus plays bishop c4. Alireza is still the only one on the board with the rook. The position is equal. This is extremely tense stuff. Bishop to d5. Rook b4. Magnus plays bishop c3, bothering the rook. Rook a4. And Magnus Carlsen shucks the pawn. Gives it up and is all in. 1 minute versus 30 seconds. You could bring your king. You could bring knight c1. So I'm stopping this. e3. Now, the best move here is rook a4 to then try to play knight e2 and bring the king. Alireza goes here, and I don't know if he did this on purpose or by, he blunders the pawn on a2. Now, if he takes and e2 is played, it's this, it takes, and only Black is playing this for a win, but it's probably a draw. Now, that's what happens. We have this. Magnus promotes to rook, and this is the endgame. Knight c1, king g5, knight d3. Only Magnus can win this position. King g4, bishop back. This is a draw. There's absolutely nothing here. You can even take. You can take the pawn on h7. You can take the pawn on h7 because even though you're trapped, your king can go here. King g1, and if they start coming back for you, I think there's a way to save yourself. There might be a way. This also might be like a defensive fortress. Of course, you don't want to get involved in any of that. But I think you might be able to take. Maybe you're just trapped. Knight e4. And now something absolutely ridiculous happens. Magnus, in a completely otherwise drawn endgame. Look at Alireza, knight h3, sacking the knight. He gets Alireza into a zugzwang. Alireza keeps trying to sacrifice his knight, and for reasons that nobody quite understands, he wanders off. And now he's trapped. The knight goes to c6, the king goes to d5. The knight is trapped. Bishop c3. And in this position, it's a check. And Alireza resigns. Because the knight is trapped. And Magnus Carlsen wins an 80-move endgame, which was probably a draw. But not even that. Alireza had a rook. He had a rook. And he decided either deliberately or accidentally to go for this endgame and just hold it. And he loses. He loses. And now he has to win with black in a brand new position. So position's completely different. And he starts the game in the most provocative way possible by developing his bishop and not taking the center. That is the way he opts to start this game, to try to throw Magnus off his game. Magnus just says, all right, listen, rules of chess still apply. Principles of chess still apply. I'm just going to play solidly, and I'm going to take space away from you. Why? Because I know your knights are going to want to come out, but they're going to want to come out into these pawns, so you're probably not going to put them there. So what you're going to try to do is you're probably going to play on this side, but I'm going to get a head start. I'm going to get a head start taking the space away from you on that side of the board, Alireza. Knight f2, d5. Knight d2. And again, Alireza has to win. So at some point, he can't just let Magnus do nothing. Well, Magnus doesn't even wait. He doesn't wait. He just plays c4. He says, you know what, Alireza? You want a castle, right? The only way to castle is to move your queen. How are you going to do that? You play queen d7, I'm going to shove you right back in. You go queen d8, I'm playing c5. You got no moves. If you can't move these pieces, you're going to lose the game. So c4. Alireza plays knight g6. Bishop a4 attacks the queen. The queen slides over. He slides up. He's just going to move every piece off the back rank and leave the option to castle that way, or leave the option not to castle at all. And remember, Alireza has to win the game. And he played this game in a way where he gave space away early on. He plays c6. Magnus is just being annoying. He's just not letting any piece go forward. Knight goes back to f6. Now he captures. Knight transitions to the e5 square. And Alireza goes here. We trade. We trade. We trade. And now simply knight b3. Position is symmetrical. We both have a d pawn, but my pieces are of a much higher quality. I'm going to go king a2. I don't even need to castle. And your king is never going to get to any sort of safety. Knight g5. Shoves the knight back. And that's mate that I'm threatening, by the way. Or at least a perpetual. I'm threatening a mate or a perpetual check. Which one do you want to choose? Bishop e3. Magnus still sacrificing this knight because the king is going to get cut off. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. The black king goes to a7. f4. I mean, my goodness. He just rolls forward. Queen b5. Fine, let's go to an endgame. Doesn't matter. Alireza down to 12 seconds. This is cleanup. Rook c5. Hanging. And just like he won the first game, he wins the third game of the day against Alireza. He sweeps Alireza. He beats him 3 times in a row to punch his ticket to the semifinal. And he's up against Nodirbek Abdusattorov, the man who has not lost a single game while in Germany. Magnus said so himself. Nodirbek's been playing the best chess. And can't wait. Starts tomorrow. We do have a round robin for 5th through 8th place as well. So Vincent, Gukesh, Ding, and Alireza will play 5th through 8th. Semifinals begin tomorrow. And the GOAT is back. Now get out of here.